They are the knowers, and Kshetra, Prakruti, and Jnanam, they are the same. So Bhagavan has started his explanation with the word Kshetra, and he says, Idam Shariram Kshetra. This body is Kshetra, what is known as Kshetra, O Kaunteya. Sharira word is used, so it includes all three bodies, gross, subtle, and causal bodies. And Kshetra, we saw, is something from which things ooze out, or something which decays, changes, modifies. Or then, in the normal term, it is a field where seeds are planted and crops are grown and fruits are gained. So when we look at the body, we know that there are things oozing out of the body. The body is decaying. All three bodies, changes are happening. And then this body is the one through which karmas are planted and the results are reaped. And for experiencing those results, we may have to take further births. So this is how this body is known as Kshetra. What are the ways in which I come to know this body or these bodies? One is in the natural way I know that the body has changed. The second is by upadesha or advice. So there is an advice by the doctor. There is an advice by the spiritual master. The purpose of the advice is different. A spiritual master is advising us so that we can gain a certain amount of dispassion towards the body. Whereas the doctor will advise us to keep the body healthy. The body has to be kept healthy. Why are we keeping it healthy is more important. The doctor will always say, yes, you need a healthy body if you want to live longer and if you want to enjoy the world. Whereas the spiritual master is telling us that you are eternal. So there is no question of living long or short. You are not even going to die, but you have a body, you need the body to serve the world. And that's why you keep the body healthy. So it's up to us what we want to take. And then, of course, there is experience. Our own experience tells us that our body has changed, our mind has changed, our vasanas have changed. We inherently know that our vasanas have changed. Now, the word idam means this. So what is the definition of this? This word definition we will be using a few times, and therefore I thought we first also need to understand the definition of the word definition. How do you define definition? Shastra tells us that also. Definition is that which describes correctly the nature, distinguishing it from all the rest. Definition is that which describes correctly the nature, distinguishing it from all the rest. To give you a very simple example, which of course even we have read it in Tattva Bodh, but in context of definition. So there is a lane and a person is standing at the end of the lane and asking us, do you know where this person lives? XYZ lives. And now we can say, our Shastra gives the, oh, do you see that crow sitting on top of that house? That is his house. Okay. Now, by the time this person goes there, that crow will have flown away, but now the person knows the house. Or even if he comes next day, now he knows the house. He doesn't need the crow to tell him which house it is. So saying that the house is the one on top of which the crow is sitting is not a definition. It doesn't fall under because it's going to change. It can change even in minutes. It's just a upalakshana, what is known as upal. It's just a pointer, for that moment, that definition was correct. For that moment. Oh, right now, do you see that crow? Yes, I see that. Okay, that's the house. For that moment, if the definition is correct for that moment, it is actually not a definition. It is only a pointer. Now, what can be a definition in this thing is if the house is painted blue and you say, oh, do you see that blue house? Because no other house in that lane is painted blue or green. Then that becomes a definition. Even that is not correct, but in this context, it will become, because next day when that person comes, that color will have remained the same. Of course, over time, that color can change, but sort of more permanent than the crow. So at least it's not going to change by the time the person walks there. So it is important to know what we mean by definition. So definition is a thing which characterizes, definition is a word which characterizes a thing and shows it to be different from others. It has to show. That's why this is defined as like this. That's the importance. Okay, it's like saying fire is hot. So anybody who gives you a cold thing and says, you know what, this is fire, you're going to say, no, this is not fire. This can't be fire, because fire is defined by its heat. So if it is not hot, this thing cannot be fire. That's the meaning. Now, idam word, we said, what is idam? Idam is this. And what is the definition of idam? Is that which is seen. Idam is that which is seen, which is inert, which is changing, and therefore mithya. And we saw this last time. As opposed to this, kshetrajna has to be something different from this, because if we start defining kshetrajna as the same, then what is the difference between kshetra and kshetrajna? So kshetrajna is defined as that is defined, again I'm saying defined, okay, so which means that this cannot change, is that which is the drashta, seer. And this seer has to be sentient, because if the seer is inert, then he will become kshetra also. So it has to be sentient. And then if it is sentient, it has to be changeless. Why? Because if it is changing, again, it will fall under the other definition. So it has to be changeless. And because it is changeless, it is really real. It is real in the 3 periods of time. This is the definition of kshetrajna. Now, when we look at ourselves, I think we had stopped here, almost about here last time. So when we look at ourselves and we say, I know my body. That's what I'm going to say. You're also going to, I know my body. Now, who is this I? What do we know of this I? Like if Gurudev were to define this, when I say, you know, I see, I am speaking, I am, you know, doing something, who is that I that we know and we are very familiar with? Is the jiva, right? Correct. Now, what is the definition of jiva? Anybody can tell? What is the technical definition of jiva? What is it? See, we are trying to determine if jiva is kshetrajna.
It is the 5. Body.
Yes, yes, Meena?
Identification with subtle body.
Jiva is not identification. What is jiva? Technical definition of jiva?
5 elements and 3 gunas?
No. Technical definition of jiva is chidabhasa. It is the reflection of consciousness in the pool of the mind. That is how jiva is defined. Then this reflection is identifying. Then afterwards it is identifying with the gross body, subtle body. It has got the gunas. It is acting at that. That is afterwards. But originally what is jiva is the reflection of consciousness in the pool of the mind. This is how jiva is defined. Now we need to see, is jiva kshetrajna? Because I see my body, I know my mind, I know that my mind has changed, I know my vasanas have changed, I know that my body has changed. So is jiva kshetrajna? So if jiva is kshetrajna, then it needs to fall under the definition of kshetrajna. This is logic. So we have to give logic. Who thinks that jiva is kshetrajna?
No, I have a doubt. When you say it is the reflection of consciousness, yes. In the pool of mind, whose mind? Jiva's mind, right?
No, in the subtle body, which is there. That's not, that has been explained already. I'm not going to go back into that. You have to now stay with the definition. What is jiva? The reflection is happening in the subtle body. That's what is making this gross body alive. Okay? Tattva Bodh. I told you last time to read Tattva Bodh. Please read Tattva Bodh. So right now you have to stick with that. Stick in the sense it is the definition that it is the reflection happening in the pool of the mind. Now, we go to our definition of kshetrajna. It is the drashta. When the question is asked, is jiva a drashta? The answer will be yes. Will it not be yes? Don't I see that my body is changing? Logic. This is logic. You have to understand this, okay, at the intellectual level. So it is drishta. If it is drishta, it has to be sentient. Is it sentient? Yeah, it is. Is anybody of you going to say, if I ask you, are you alive or dead? Are you going to say, no, I'm dead, I'm inert, or I'm alive? So it is sentient. Now the third category is changeless. Does jiva fall under the definition of changeless? Yeah, Chandar is saying no. Who else is saying? How many of you think jiva is changeless or changing?
Jiva is changing, of course.
Very good. Now you need to understand why. Why do you say that? Because that is the answer, correct answer. But why is jiva changing?
It is like that bird sitting on the lower perch of the tree, right? So it sort of eats the fruits and then reacts to the taste of the fruits, etc. So that itself causes changes all the time.
But the way that we have to understand this jiva, changing jiva, jiva is reflection. Reflection is what? Ego. What is ego? Ego is now identification with the body, right? And the ego is changing minute to minute. Think about it. This morning, when I woke up, I went for a walk. So the jiva was a walker ego. Then the jiva came back and had a shower and then did her prayers. So ego became the praying jiva. Then the ego became the breakfast eating jiva. Then the ego is now sitting here and talking. So now the ego is a speaker ego. And at 11 o'clock, it'll again change into a cook ego because ego will be cooking then. In this one day, the ego has changed that much. Imagine how much it has changed from birth. First, it was an elementary school ego, then high school, then college, then unmarried ego, then married, then mother ego, then middle-aged ego, then old ego. Because it is ego who is saying, I'm in primary school, I'm in high school, I'm in this, I am married, I am mother. Who is saying all those things? So that I, which Gurudev always defined as the small I, is constantly changing. And because of that, it does not fall under the category of Kshetrajna. This is the logic. This is the logic. Okay, so the third step only it fails. So it cannot go on further to really real. All right. So we did, this chapter is not about jiva at all. Bhagavan is not talking, but we should not have any doubts in the mind. And when we have reached this far, we should not have those doubts, whose mind it is and how it happened. All those doubts should have been cleared by now. So we have determined that it is not jiva. Who is this Kshetrajna? Now Bhagavan answers himself in the next verse. Verse number 3. Kshetrajnam chapi mam viddhi sarva kshetreshu bharata kshetra kshetrajnayor jnanam yatta jnanam matam mama. Do thou also know me as the knower of the field in all fields. This also negates the jiva. O Bharata, knowledge as to the field and the knower of the field is considered by me to be the knowledge. So now, first of all, we can say consider to me to be the knowledge means that is the only name. This is what he's defining here. Because Arjuna asked, Jnanam Nayam. He said, you asked what is Nayam? Nayam, what is to be known? The only knowledge that should be known, real knowledge, is that there is only one Kshetrajna in all the Kshetras. This right here negates the jiva. Because the jiva in every body is different. Mine is a female jiva. Mine is a jiva of mother of 2 children. Yours is a mother of 1 child, or you're a male jiva. You're more educated, you're less educated, you're more intelligent, I'm less intelligent. So the jivas in every kshetra are different. And that's why jiva cannot be kshetranya, because now Bhagavan is saying, do also know me, capital M. And here me does not mean the form of Lord Krishna. So he's saying me as the knower of the field in all fields. So now we come to the next point, is Ishvara, is Kshetrajna Ishvara, right? Because the next step after Jiva is what? Who is there? Is Ishvara. So now Ishvara also has to pass this test. Whatever we say as Kshetrajna has to pass the definition. That's why that word definition is very important. What is definition? So we now do inquiry into Ishvara as being Kshetrajna and see if he passes all 4 stages. So he is the Drashta. Recently in a book I read, very beautiful. It said it's by Ramakrishna Paramhans ashram, Swami Vivekananda's lineage. Ishvara, it seems, can hear the footsteps of the ants. It really, brought goosebumps to me. Like, imagine. That is how Ishvara is described. He can hear the footsteps of the ants. That means Sarvadnya. That's why the title is there, Sarvadnya, right? What is Sarvadnya? Means every little thing of every little jiva, Ishvara knows. So obviously he is the Drashta. Absolutely. See, even jiva we cannot put as Drashta, honestly, because it doesn't know everything else. But if we in our selfish thing with, I know me myself, so I'm the Kshetrajna if I think, that is not correct. But Ishvara definitely passes the bar of Drashta, seer, because he's seeing everything. Is he sentient? Of course he's sentient. Otherwise, how could he have seen? Is he changeless? Of course he's changeless. And when we say Ishvara, okay, going back, what is the technical definition of Ishvara now? That also we have to understand. How would you technically Ishvara? Don't think we are not, when we use the word Ishvara in Vedantic parlance, it does not mean Rama and Krishna, and it does not mean that at all. Ishvara in Vedanta, how is Ishvara described?
Brahman invoking the power of Maya.
Correct. Brahman plus Maya is Ishvara. Very good. Correct. We have to understand these definitions very correctly. So it is sentient. Is it changing?
No.
It's not changing. Last one. Is it really real? Very good. Raj is giving the correct answer. But only giving the correct answer is not enough. Tell me why. Tell us, why do you think?
Because the Ishvara and Maya, these are two. Brahma, nobody can tell or explain. It is itself.
Okay. Anybody else? Any other thoughts? Who thinks Ishvara is really real? Is it really real or is he mithya?
It is mithya because Maya is there.
It is mithya.
Yeah.
You know why? Not because Maya is there. It is mithya because at pralaya, Ishvara will vanish.
Ishvara will vanish, yeah. That's
what
true.
Is the definition of real? Real is that which does not change in the 3 periods of time. And time is from the beginning of creation till pralaya is time. It is not just our limited time. Yesterday this happened and today and tomorrow. Time is not limited to just our yesterday and our today and our tomorrow. Time is the entire period between when the first kalpa began, creation began, up to and at pralaya Ishvara merges. At pralaya Ishvara merges. That is number 1 point. Second point is You know, when other time when Ishvara merges, for the person who realizes himself to be Brahman, Ishvara merges. There are two things. But the person, because not all the jivas can, and this is an impossible thing, but say that all the human beings, because only human beings are capable of realization. That's number one point. Suppose we say all the human beings realize at the same moment, even then Ishvara doesn't disappear because the other jivas are there. There are animals, there are plants, there are beasts, there are reptiles and birds and everything. So that's what I'm thinking. If they say if there is a nuclear war and entire world gets destroyed, the rats will live. That's what is said. So as long as there is a single rat moving on this earth, Ishvara lives. But at Pralaya, finally it merges, but every jiva who realizes, so we have realized masters who have realized that their own nature to be Brahman, for them Ishvara merges. Ishvara is like the team leader. I give this example in all my classes. There is a team and there is a team leader. Now, the team leader is valid only as long as the team is there. Suppose if the 4 or 5 members of the team resign or they get fired, will that team leader remain? The team leader is because of the team that he has under him. When the team dissolves, the team leader dissolves automatically. Or if you remember the example of the salt doll who wanted to measure the depth of the ocean, but in between somewhere, she only merged with the ocean. So she could not see the depth. Same way, the jiva, considering Ishvara to be real, we consider Ishvara to be real because just like an ant thinks elephant is eternal, because ant is living 100 days, elephant is living 100 years. So for the ant, the elephant is eternal. For us, Ishvara is eternal because in our lifetime, if we don't realize and we just die, then Ishvara continues. Ishvara continues. But in the final analysis, it merges. It will merge into Brahman. It will merge. And therefore, only Ishvara cannot be considered as Kshetrajna. Now we have only one choice left. Who is Kshetrajna? There is only one choice. Brahman. Now, what is the definition of Brahman? Technical definition of Brahman.
Well, actually, it is supposed to be anirvachaniyam. We cannot define it.
Correct.
Yeah.
But if we say we cannot define it, understanding of the intellect comes only through words.
Agreed.
That means if you cannot define Brahman as per the Shruti definition, you will never be able to understand this verse. Because understanding, where is understanding coming from? So there is a technical definition of Brahman, and what is it?
I didn't say that to escape the question. I mean, that isn't one of the,
No.
So consciousness.
No, consciousness is not a technical definition.
That which does not, which can stand the test of 3 time periods, which does not modify.
But that is the definition of Kshetrajna. We are trying to have an independent definition of Brahman. If it is not consciousness, what else can it be? It has to be consciousness.
Yasmina, you said something.
Satchitananda.
That is it.
That's
Ekam eva advitiya Brahman. That is the technical definition of Brahman. The consciousness, that is okay. Technical definition of Jiva, understand, is the reflection of consciousness. Technical definition of Ishvara is Brahman plus Maya. Technical definition of Brahman in Sanskrit, Chandogya Upanishad, Ekam eva advitiyam.
But that doesn't sound like a definition because all it says, sorry to interrupt, that doesn't sound like a definition. It only says only one without a second.
Correct. Because the question is
anything about what it is.
What is Brahman? Question is, what is Brahman? And this is the answer that is given. And I told you that yes, Brahman is, even Maya is we cannot describe Maya, yet we are describing Maya in so many words because our intellect cannot understand without words. Which means you cannot understand. We are reading words and trying to understand. So words are required. That's why, how would you best define Brahman? Ekam eva advitiyam, which is Sat Chit Ananda. Sat Chit Ananda are not the attributes of Brahman. Attribute is something which will go away. It's like the color is blue of this house. That blue color can go away at any time. It is not the attribute. It is. Brahman is. Even the word Brahman we cannot use. Sant Naneshwar has said, you utter the word Brahman, you have tainted Brahman. But now if you can't utter anything, how will you understand? So you cannot use. See, this is Purva Pakshi is talking. This is the way you said it, that it's indefinite. That is, Purva Pakshi would have said something like that. Therefore, you will see at the end of this, there's a huge commentary of Bhagavan Shankaracharya on this one. See, the last paragraph. On this stanza, Shankara has the longest commentary to give, as many objections are raised by the believers in different philosophical concepts. And as a commentator, Shankara had to answer them all. That type of a commentary is not called forth in our times. And in fact, it would be too confusing for the modern man. Therefore, we resist our temptation to enter into such noisy word duels. So when we say things, and it's okay that Brahman cannot be defined. Okay, then keep quiet then. Have you understood what Brahman is? Brahman cannot be defined. So, okay, so no words. Now you understand how Brahman is. What is Kshetrajna?
But ultimately, we have to go beyond words, right?
That is your subjective experience. Now we are trying to give you an intellectual understanding of Asi. Bhagwan is trying to tell Arjun the Asi is being elaborated. Okay, so in that now we are now explaining this in an easy way. So who is Kshetrajna is the discussion. Who is this Kshetrajna? That understanding of Kshetrajna has to be absolutely clear in our mind. So understand clearly that Jiva is not Kshetrajna. Okay. Understand clearly also that only Ishvara by himself is not Kshetrajna. Because he is Mithya at the final end. He doesn't fit the definition. So now the third option remains is Brahman, because obviously there is something known as Kshetrajna. Obviously, because Bhagwan has said, there is a Kshetra and there is a Kshetrajna. That is what he's saying. There is a field and there is a knower of the field. Who is the knower of the field? What is we understood the Kshetra. We told you Kshetra means this. Say this is Kshetra. And Kshetra will be elaborately explained by Bhagwan also later on. But right now we have understood this. There is something known as the knower. Who is the knower? We ruled out Jiva. We ruled out Ishvara. What remains is Brahman. So Brahman has to fit this category as well. And therefore, we do a logical analysis. Therefore, that time we need this definition. Ekam eva advitiyam. We need that definition to understand the next part of this lecture. And so, we begin our analysis of Brahman to be Kshetrajna. When we say Brahman is Kshetrajna, what is Kshetrajna? Drashta. Correct? Seer. Okay. When can you call a any entity as a seer? When there is something that is seen, right? Now, Brahman by definition is ekam eva advitiyam. When you go to the level of Brahman, is there anything else to be seen?
Even the seer is false in that sense.
Therefore, Brahman also by himself, by itself, doesn't fit this definition of Kshetrajna. That is the point that I'm trying to make.
Oh my.
Now we have to this is logic. That I told you, this is jnana only. There's no support. The support is of the Shravanam that we have done. That's where we have heard. The definitions of these terms we have heard in Shravanam. So please don't think that suddenly we can come to this line of thinking. We can't. We have to start at Tattva Bodh. We have to learn all these definitions, and then based on those definitions, we need to determine who Kshetrajna is. Okay? So alone Jiva, alone Ishvara, and alone Brahman do not fit this definition. So alone, neither one of them is Kshetrajna. Because in Kshetrajna, there is Kshetra and Nya word. There are 2 syllables. Brahman is only Nya. There is no Kshetra only. Then how he will become Kshetrajna?
You need the triad. Then
He
you need
can't.
the triad. Yeah.
He can't. That's what I'm saying. He can't. Because he's only Nya. That last syllable he is. Correct. So now our total understanding of Kshetrajna should be, Kshetrajna is Ishvara, but understand that Ishvara cannot function, cannot be there without Brahman. So at the level of the totality, this Kshetra, therefore there is only, Bhagavan said, there is only one Kshetrajna for all Kshetras. So when it is said there is one Kshetrajna for all, means at this point of our understanding, Kshetra is real. There are many, many bodies. There are many, many Kshetras, many, many fields. But the knower of them is only one. So when we say knower, it is Ishvara. But does Ishvara have any validity without Brahman? Can Ishvara have any? Because the technical definition of Ishvara is Brahman plus Maya. Which means if you take Brahman out of the equation, there is no Ishvara. Okay? This same Ishvara. This is how Kshetrajna has to be understood. This is the Asi. That's what I told you. These two, after this, it's just a breeze. Very easy. This same Ishvara, identifying with the gross body, with the subtle body, becomes Jiva. It is the same Ishvara becoming Jiva. This is why we need to understand that Jiva and Ishvara and Brahman, there is no difference. Asi, Tattvam Asi. When we study, see, in Tattvam Asi, Tat is Ishvara. Tat is never said to be Brahman. Did any of the books say Tat is Brahman and Tvam is you? No, they say Tat is Ishvara, Tvam is you. Okay. How can I be equal to Ishvara? Oh, no way, no way. Ishvara is Sarvajna, I am Alpajna. There's so much difference between me and Ishvara. Okay. So what is the definition of Ishvara? Pure consciousness, or Brahman plus Maya. What is the definition of Jiva? Pure consciousness plus avidya. Individuality. Drop the upadhis. This is the simple explanation that has been given to us so far of Tattvamasi. Okay? Drop the upadhis, see the oneness in Brahman. That same thing now we have to see in Kshetrajna. Kshetrajna, when you say it has to be Ishvara, but you have to understand that Ishvara has no validity without Brahman. And therefore, Kshetrajna is Brahman plus Ishvara, or Ishvara who cannot survive without Brahman. And that same Ishvara now becoming this Jiva. How does Ishvara become Jiva? By reacting, identifying with the thought, identifying with the body. So that's why in our sadhana, we are told, when you, instead, Gurudev has said this so many times, instead of saying, I am getting old, get into the habit of saying, my body is getting old. When you say, my body is getting old, you are in the position of Ishvara. When you say, anger is rising in my mind, you go from Jiva to Ishvara, you become. Every time you disengage from the gross body. You disidentify from the thought. Every time that disidentification happens, you go into the position of Ishvara. You remain as a witness. That's why the two birds. That's if you keep pecking at the fruit and say, oh, this is sweet, this is, you're at the level of the jiva. So you peck the fruit because body has to survive with the notion that I am eating because my body has to survive. I have got no issues about survival. I'm eternal. I don't need food to survive. So when you have that sort of a thought, and that's how when you're behaving in this world, you raise yourself to the position of that bird on the upper branch or onto position of Ishvara. This is how Kshetradnya, that's why I am Kshetradnya, has to be understood. Asi, what right now I think I am this little individual, infinite, finite, cry here, cry there, this thing, get hurt, get insulted, body getting old, feeling bad, this. If you disengage from all this, you become Kshetradnya. You are Kshetradnya. Actually, we are Kshetradnya, but we have forgotten that by identifying ourselves with gross body and subtle body. That is what it is. Kshetradnya, this jnana when you have, this is jnanam. This, what is jnanam? That I am actually Kshetradnya. It is me only. But in my ignorance that I am Kshetradnya, I am identifying with the Kshetra. And when I identify with the Kshetra, of course, then I'm becoming old. I have to wear glasses, hair is going gray, mind is getting hurt, mind is getting insulted, I am getting angry, I am sad, I am happy. Instead of that, if this tone is changed to my body is getting old, I'm not getting old. I see anger rising in my mind. So nothing to do with me. When you have this jnana, and have means when it has become wisdom, when at every moment in your life you can bring this wisdom out, Bhagavan says, in my opinion, that is real knowledge. Otherwise, everything else is mithya. Kshetradnyam chapi mam vidhi. Know this Kshetradnya in all sarva kshetreshu bharata. All kshetra means animals, everything. Yeah. Yes, means.
So that means that pure consciousness cannot exist without kshetra.
Can it not? Kshetradnya cannot exist.
Exactly. That's what I wanted to say, that kshetrajna cannot exist without kshetra. And that's correct. The only reason why it puts it at the Ishvara level. Because Ishvara is the one who created kshetra.
Correct. Ishvara created kshetradnya, created kshetra. Correct.
So just for our limited world, because there is kshetra, must be that kshetrajna, and we are looking just from that angle.
As far as the kshetra is there, kshetradnya is, as long as the team is there, team leader exists. That's why I told you, as long as I think myself to be the body, Ishvara is valid. The minute I realize myself to be Brahman, Ishvara is invalidated for me alone.
But how can we ever realize Brahman when we are, I don't know, there is something contradictory.
Disidentify from the body. That's it. Disidentify from the three bodies. You want to realize Brahman, you need to stop thinking. If you're thinking you're the body, you're at a very low stage. Bottom. So the first step is, because world, I told you this, nobody thinks I'm the computer. That even the stupid person doesn't think that. So that's why Bhagavan doesn't talk about the world. Kshetra, straight he's coming to body. Kshetra is actually, all this is Kshetra. Computer, photo, every house, car, everything is falling under Kshetra. Is Bhagavan even talking about that? Because nobody identifies and says that I am my car. They behave like that because if the car something happens or something, they're like so upset. But still nobody thinks I am the car. But definitely everybody thinks I am the body.
Yes, self-hypnosis, or I don't know.
Don't know what?
Like I myself project. I don't know how to explain. It's not clear. I mean, I understand, but I don't. Yeah.
Mind, rajas has to be reduced. Rajas in the mind has to be reduced. If you don't do that, yeah.
So I want to clarify what you said regarding Tattvamasi, right? Everywhere I have heard, everywhere I have read, that is considered equivalent to Aham Brahmasmi, not Aham Ishvarosmi.
No.
So it is actually talking about the equality between us and Brahman, not us and Ishvara.
No. It is talking. No. See, no, it is not talking about equality between us and Brahman. It is saying you are that Ishvara. And the question then arises, Tattvamasi, Tat is Ishvara there.
But then Aham Brahmasmi, you never say Aham Ishvarosmi.
That's why it is said, Tattvamasi is the sadhana vakya. Aham Brahmasmi is the culmination.
I see.
Ayam Atma Brahma is also there. Prajnanam Brahma is also there. Okay. The Mahavakya is telling us the identity between the two. Which way it is telling us is in different ways. Tattvamasi is the most explained one in the Prakaran Granthas. Have you ever read an exposition of Aham Brahmasmi in Prakaran Granthas? Tattvabodh, Aham Tattvamasi, Vivek Churamani, Tattvamasi. Tattvamasi is the only one. Because this is, then Aham Brahmasmi is your realization. When the Guru tells you Tattvamasi, explains to you Tattvamasi, and that is what we are explaining here, that you are the Kshetrajna, so you understand yourself to be the Kshetrajna, and now you go deeper, saying who is the Kshetrajna, drop the Kshetra, only Nya remains. That means there is nothing Ekameva Advitiya Brahma. And that Aham Brahmasmi. That is how this realization has to happen. Aham Ishvarosmi, nobody will say. It is wrong.
Yes.
It is wrong. It is absolutely wrong. Agreed. That's why only the discussion comes. When you say Tattvamasi, where Tat is Ishvara and Tvam is me, how I can be Ishvara? That's why they say, what is the definition? Okay, define Ishvara, define Jiva. And then that's why the Jahad Ajala Lakshana, the means of knowing, that's why that Bhagavan Shankaracharya explained first. How you know a thing. There is a direct means, there is an indirect means. All these means have to be known. All the definition have to be known. When we are knowing all that, we are in the field of karma. We are in the field of ignorance. We are doing Shravanam. And now we have come into the field of Jnana, where we are now only thinking. No book. Only thinking. Now we are thinking. Okay, define Jiva. Okay, does it fall under this? No, it doesn't. Define Ishvara. Does it fall under this? Actually, it doesn't. Now Brahman, no. When I reach Brahman, Kshetra disappears. So Kshetrajna cannot be. Kshetrajna is Brahman. Kshetra, with Kshetra, it becomes Ishvara. Though we must have the understanding that at an ultimate level, Ishvara is not there. Ultimately, so don't ever think yourself to be Ishvara. And also the advice is, don't even try to become Ishvara, because you can't. You can't. So you directly have to go for Brahman. You can't become Ishvara. That's why the salt doll example is there. You will never know Ishvara. You will never become Ishvara. Yes.
Yeah, it was a bit confusing because for Tattvamasi, my understanding was that we are that pure consciousness. I am that pure consciousness.
So that is incorrect understanding right in the beginning. Read Tattva Bodh.
Okay.
So your basic, see, these are the fundamentals, what in Sadnipani they would call as fundas. Fundamental was made fundas. So they used to say, these fundas have to be extremely clear in your mind. Otherwise, how that building will stand? Foundation is what is built first. And if that foundation is not strong, if you don't know what exactly karma yoga is, if you don't know what exactly the reflection of consciousness is, drigdrish viveka. We have done all these texts. That's why we have reached this. So that means the foundation is not there. That's why I'm telling you, read Drigdrish Vivek also. You know, so these fundamentals, unless that's why all these types of questions will come. Otherwise, it is a very simple explanation. But have I left you more confused than what you were before? Very, very simple. Kshetra, at least Kshetra, you guys understand? What is Kshetra? Body? Kshetrajna also. Jiva is very easy to understand, can't be Kshetrajna. If you only take Ishvara there, only see, we are taking only Ishvara, then only Ishvara is merging. So complete total thought we have to understand behind Kshetrajna. We cannot compartmentalize it and understand. We have to understand the total thought. Kshetrajna, Kshetra and Nya is there. Kshetra plus Nya, knower of the field, which means there is a field and there is a knower. That knower cannot be Brahman. Because when you reach the stage of Brahman, the Kshetra disappears. That's why I told you, what is the definition of Brahman? You need to know that first. That's fundamental. Ekameva Advitiya is not to be forgotten, and you do not put arguments like, oh, that is indescribable. Okay, then not everything is indescribable only. You'll never understand Brahman. You'll never realize Brahman. Unless you intellectually understand this concept, how will you resolve it in your mind? Or the other way is, then you have strong faith. Do you have that strong faith? Like Nisargadatta Maharaj. Nisargadatta Maharaj had not read anything. No Gita, no Upanishad. His guru told him, you are that. Finish. Straight, Soham. Then have that sort of faith. That's where we lack. We don't have that complete faith. We don't have that complete knowledge. Fundamentals are not fixed. We hear one thing, we forget. We hear one thing, we forget. We can't go up.
So Kshetrajna is Brahman when wants to create or with creation.
No.
Brahman doesn't want to create, want anything. There is
Very
nothing
good.
else.
Excellent.
There is nothing else for it to
Yeah.
want. So it's
Brahman
always
doesn't want the creation. Brahman doesn't want the creation.
So how can Ishvara? I understand that Ishvara goes down. How can Ishvara create?
Power of Maya.
This creation,
Identify. How can Ishvara identify with Brahman? That's the question.
Ishvara knows. Ishvara, see, Jiva and Ishvara, what is the difference between Jiva and Ishvara? Ishvara knows that he is Brahman and Maya is under his control.
Yeah.
And Jiva does not know that he's Brahman and he is under the control of Maya. And that's why Maya is called as Avidya, where it concerns us individual.
Okay.
Okay. So what it means, Ishvara controls Maya means that three gunas, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, are completely under his control. So he with his power is, the creation is happening by Prakriti. That is also going to come in this chapter, because Purusha and Prakriti is going to explain. When creation is happening, okay, Then it is called as Purusha and Prakriti. It is not for creation. Brahman word is not used anywhere. Notice that. Every time they say, how did creation happen? Purusha with the help of Prakriti created.
So now we are coming to a question, how was Ishvara created?
That is Ishvara. Purusha plus Prakriti is Ishvara, equal to Ishvara.
Okay. I'll think. Thanks.
More than thinking, you need to purify your mind. I'll be honest with you. I'm very, I'm just telling you,
Thank
you
you.
need to clear out the rajas in your mind. There is no need to think. If you make your mind sattvic enough, that's why it said Saraswati herself will reveal. The knowledge will arise in your mind. You don't have to go thinking into the knowledge. But where is the sadhana is purification of the mind, quietening of the mind, being able to sit quietly. These things, unless you develop, unless you reduce rajas, it's very difficult. All these doubts are going to keep coming. And if the doubts come, how can you meditate? We saw in chapter, the one who is of agitated mind, where will he have peace of mind? He can't. He can't. And these are very fundamental doubts that are coming. So which you need to, go back, and any doubts about karma, please listen to chapter 3. It is going on. It is on YouTube. So, and Yasmina, thank you. You put this also on YouTube. I saw that last week. So,
it was Dinesh.
Oh, did he do? Okay. But he is not attending this class.
He's putting a video.
Okay.
I put audio and he puts video.
Yeah, it's easier. It becomes easier for me to listen to my own lectures. I myself listen to my own lectures just to make sure that whatever that I have said is in sequence, is correct. If there is something I've missed, and that's how I also come to know that, oh, I missed this point. Maybe I should say it the next time. So I'm myself listening to my lectures. If you want these fundamentals to be this thing, please listen to those. And as we go further, it is extremely, now I don't know about how you guys will feel, but to me, it's literally a piece of cake after this. It's a cakewalk. Do you have any questions? Any further doubts? No? Everybody is all clear?
So, Judge, yeah, that means we are always tangled with the ego and jiva.
We are
always tangled with the body, jiva and aham. That's
identify.
Yeah, that's the first thing. That's why our, intellect doesn't reach forward and beyond.
Correct.
So the first step is to clear, whatever you said, clear the mind. Then, when to talk, we understand. But what it is, it's all messed up.
Yeah. The mind is impure. There can never be clarity in the intellect.
Yeah. And ego and jiva are the same.
Ego and jiva are the same, yes.
Are the same. They deal with the body only, right?
Ahankar, yeah. The ahankar takes on the response. Yesterday only in Vivek Choramani, listen to Vivek Choramani, it's all this thing portion is going on. You were there, right? Agency. We saw agency, right? See, the ego is taking on, the ego has the sense of agency. What does it mean, sense of agency? If you think of a real estate agent, who is that agent? The house doesn't belong to him, okay? But he takes that house upon himself. I will sell this house, right? And he sells the house. Or he buys a house for his client. That house also is not his, but he takes on the responsibility. That is what the ego is doing. That is what in Vivek Choramani, Bhagavan says, ego is that sense of agency. The action is happening because of the gunas. The ego just jumps in there and says, I did the action. Ego takes it upon itself. Reflection thinks that he is real, that reflection is real. That's why that idea, the knowledge in our head should be, is this reflection real? It has a dependency. It has a dependency on the medium and the object. How it is real? Can it be real?
So even the understanding of jiva as ego is somewhat limited, right? If you read lines like jivo brahmaiva naparaha, so then that jiva that is being referred to in that line, that shloka cannot be ego, obviously, because it's a jiva brahma eva na aparaha.
Jiva and Brahma, there is no difference.
Yes.
Correct. That's what I said. That's what I told you.
So the
Jiva
jiva there
is, but as long as that jiva keeps on identifying his jiva.
With the body, yeah.
That's what we said. Now, the original avidya is what? That is the original avidya. There is no difference between me and Brahman, but I keep on identifying with matter. I keep on identifying with Kshetrajna, and I keep on becoming Kshetrajna, and at least let me understand, remain as a witness. See, remember one thing, that witness is a witness because there is something to be witnessed. So the witness, at least if I can go to that stage, only then I can reach the stage of Brahman where there is the Kshetra disappears completely. For the witness, Kshetra is not disappearing. That's why it is the witness. Why is it a witness? What is Sakshi? Sakshat ikshate iti Sakshi means there is something that is being seen. So as long as something is being seen, at least that is the first step. At least don't get involved with what you're seeing. Remain as a witness to your own thought. Remain as a witness to your own body. Sudden, reading Nirvan Shatakam and reading Dasha Shloki and saying Jiva Brahma, will you realize Brahman by that statement? You will not. You have to practice staying apart. Is that practice being done? That practice will come only when the mind is full of sattva. It cannot come out of a rajasic mind. It cannot. So this reading these high things is good. You know the text you're reading, that's fine. But actually, is it happening inside of you, within you? Actually, do you consider yourself to be the witness even? Like considering yourself, Brahman is way up there. First, consider yourself the witness because you are still thinking that this world is real, the body is real. As long as the kshetra is real for you, you at least, okay, it is real, but at least don't get involved in that. And kshetra, mind falls under kshetra. So don't get involved with your own thoughts. What is the mind? It is a flow of thought. So don't get involved. What does it mean? Don't get involved with the thought. When an angry thought arises, don't say I am angry. Don't say I am happy. Don't say I am sad. Say anger is rising in me. Happiness is rising in me. Are you at that level even? That is what I'm asking you. Ask yourself. That's why it's self-analysis. Ask yourself that question. Am I at the level of the witness even? If you're not even at the level of the witness, suddenly you cannot become Brahman. So come to the stage of that bird on the upper branch. That's why we have studied. See, when they told us about the upper branch bird and lower, immediately from that time, at least we should have started practicing to be the upper bird, the bird on the upper branch. Now we have not done anything. We read all that. We forgot all that. Now we're taking up a new topic. And now when we come to this explanation of Asi, we are totally confused. Because if that practice has not been done, that's why we started with Tattva Bodh. So whenever you, this is another book I was reading, that whatever you hear from the Guru, it's the topic is disciple and Guru, and that's the same book that's from Swami Vivekananda's lineage. It's not Swami Vivekananda's book, it is Vividishananda or something like that. He says, listening from the Guru is effective only if you're changing from within. See, when the Guru is telling you, if you are making an effort to change, because the change is your own effort. Guru cannot change you. Guru is only telling us. The spiritual masters are only telling us. But to change, to bring about a change in ourselves, we only have to work. How can anybody else bring about a change within us? We have to work for that. Have we done that work? Have we done the homework? Just tell me, how many of you really read Tattva book, honestly? Or even looked for your book in the pile of books?
Yeah, I did.
You read. Very good. You have time. Good. How many of you made even an attempt to look for the book, attempt to search? Effort, without self-effort, realization is far. Then we are only imagining that we are on the spiritual path. Self-effort has to go hand in hand. Anytime you hear anything, that's why I told you, Updesh Sar. In Updesh Sar, Bhagavan said, idam, forget the idam thought, because idam is dependent on aham. And that time it was explained to me. I was not teaching, I was only hearing. So it was explained that what you have to do is, this is how you do it. So when you say, I am angry, then you have to think, who is this I? And then that anger thought will vanish. We were told like this. And I was actually feeling low. And I still even remember exactly where I was. I used to park my car at Broadway and take the train down. I used to work downtown. And I think I came back and my car had gotten towed because I was parked too close to the thingy. Suddenly I was depressed. I thought, good Lord, where is my car in the afternoon, right? This is what happened to me. And then I had just studied Uddesha. I said, okay, now who is the one that is depressed? And then I said, okay, so now what do I have to do? I went home, I phoned Girish, and then I phoned the number. I don't know how I got the number. Phoned them. Then Girish came in the evening. He said, okay, now let's go pay money and get your car back. And now you know what mistake you made. So next time don't park too close to the turning, that's where I had parked. So use that. Have you used that? When you suppose suddenly you felt jealous, suddenly you felt, even in happiness now I use whatever the I is only fault of what happy and what that's why aren't you excited? It's okay, things are happening.